My name is Kenneth Peters. I'm a member of the First United Methodist Church and have been so since 1992 or thereabouts. And so this place feels like home. And the reason I chose this church was because it looked just like, or almost just like, my home church, the Bethesda Mennonite Church in Henderson, Nebraska, which was a huge church, blonde furniture, just like this one. So I grew up in a church enclave. Our social life revolved around the church, and did so until I left home at age 18 and went off to college to pursue my life. And my life was one of study, and became a physician, and I was a physician for about 40 years. The first 20 years in a small town in the Sandhills, and then we moved down here to Omaha, where I continued my practice. The practice itself was a little iffy because I was not accustomed to city practice. Of course, there is a difference between the country and city medicine because of the nature of the geography and the culture. So I ended up acting out on addictive behavior that got me fired from my job. And that was a comeuppance. I was pretty good at what I did, but I was not very good at what I was as a person. And that opened my eyes. So I got help from the institution in which I worked, and it was proffered to me that I might be well off going to Hazelton in Center City, Minnesota, to overcome and to work through my addictive propensity. And I did, and that was April 28th will be 30 years since I have acted out on my bottom line addictive behaviors. And I have grown spiritually because of that. But the steps out of that morass are called the 12-step programs of recovery. And the 12th step says, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, I endeavor to carry this message to those that are still suffering. So that's my last job in the last 30 years. My most important job is to share the message with those that are still suffering. And I tell you, we are legion. Most people don't like to admit to it until they hit their bottom and say they have no other place to go but to have a metanoic experience, to turn around and go the other way. And that's what happened to me. And so with the help of people in this church, namely Don Bredhauer, helped me along that path, because when I got to step 11, it said, sought through prayer and meditation, a closer affiliation with my higher power. And I didn't know how to pray, even though I had been raised in a religious community. It seemed to me rather trite, my prayers. And so Brother Don, who I call him, and he calls me Brother Ken now, since we are that kind of relationship, 30 years ago, he told me, Ken, you don't need words to pray. Your higher power knows exactly what you need. So don't just sit there and be quiet and listen. Be attentive. And just be attentive of attentiveness. Be aware of awareness. And don't expect anything. And that's the prayer that you should. He didn't say should, but that's a prayer that I do, and I learned it from Basil Pennington, who came to lecture here at Creighton University some years ago. So Don had been practicing centering prayer for several years before I met him. And he's been a wonderful mentor ever since. So he and I, among others, sit together in a semicircle every Sunday morning from 9:30 to 10 and do centering prayer together. Otherwise, I do centering prayer every day at home on my own, whether I think I need to or not. So it hasn't let me down, nor has it informed me in any way that I know of. That's not for me to say, that's for somebody else to say. That's why we have mirrors around us. So at any rate, that's my story, and I'm still on the search for more understanding. I have been reading depth psychology, which really dovetails into the practice centering prayer, as exemplified by Cynthia Bourgeot, who's rather an expert at it. Her latest book that I'm reading, that we're reading as a book club, is called The Heart of Centering Prayer. And it's very akin to Wolfgang Gigerich's series of books in a spring series about consciousness. And they really dovetail, the secular and the religious really dovetail into an entity at that point. And so I'm on the path. I still have much to learn. We have much to learn from each other, and I still am attentive to that. So thanks for listening, and I'll pass.